This story from Queensland is shocking, but not unexpected. We're all supposed to believe that the future is electric. New houses in the state of Victoria are banned from installing gas, and we'll all be driving electric cars that we just plug in at home. But the truth is that even now, before this huge extra demand for electricity has really started, Australia's grid cannot cope. And in order to protect it, hundreds of thousands of customers with smart meters installed had their air conditioning remotely shut off or limited during some of the hottest days of the year. Even as we come to the end of 2024, I was still a bit sceptical of the claim that the net zero transition was more about control than saving the planet. But now I'm really starting to wonder. Those poor customers in Queensland no longer have control over how much they choose to cool their homes. Make no mistake, that decision is now made by some unaccountable government agency or grid manager. What happens when we've all got electric cars and they decide that we're not allowed to charge our cars for some reason? Can you think of an example about 5 years ago that could trigger such action? If there's a lesson to be learned from this, never accept an offer to upgrade to a smart meter. All you're doing is giving up just a little bit more control over how you live your own life. Welcome back to MGUY, British engineer and lawyer, now Sydney YouTuber. We're closing in on 100,000 subscribers, which is absolutely phenomenal. So if you're one of the majority of my viewers who are not subscribed to this channel, please just click that subscribe button so you don't miss out on any future videos. And if you'd like to contribute to this channel, why not buy me a coffee? Click the link in the description or scan the QR code on screen. As I've said before, there's this almost delicious irony to the government pursuing three completely irreconcilable aims. Firstly, electrifying the vehicle fleet and abandoning all fossil fuels, at the exact same time as the artificial intelligence industry is building data centres at an astonishing rate, all of which consume vast amounts of electricity for cooling purposes. Secondly, moving our entire electricity grid from stable, predictable sources such as coal and gas, which are under our control, to weather-based wind and solar, which are unreliable, unpredictable and out of our control. And thirdly, rejecting the only practical zero-emission baseload power generation available, which is nuclear. It's comical in its idiocy. And even now, when we get a few hot days, people rightly expect to be able to put their air conditioners on for a bit of comfort and find that their power is being throttled or stopped altogether just when they need it the most. Air con. 8,000 Queensland homes sweat as cooling cut off. Acting Premier Jared Blay says it's unacceptable that thousands of sweltering Queenslanders had the cooling function on their air conditioners turned off remotely. Acting Premier Jared Blay has blasted state-owned energy retailer Energex for remotely turning air conditioners off to help manage soaring electricity demand during extreme weather, saying it was unacceptable. More than 8,000 Queensland households had the cooling function on their air conditioner turned off remotely by Energex on a sweltering Sunday earlier this month, the fifth Big Brother-style intervention of the year. It's not a solution and I'm not happy about it, he said. I don't think Queenslanders should expect an energy company to be able, at the flick of a switch, to turn people's aircon off for a few hours a day. Queenslanders should be able to go home and turn their lights on at night time when they want. They should be able to turn their air conditioner on in summer or the heater on in winter without government and energy companies saying, we may have to turn your air conditioner off specifically so the grid doesn't fail. It's unacceptable. Mr. Blay blamed the former Labor government for inefficiently managing the state's energy assets. He said the Liberal National Party's introduction of a maintenance guarantee would address some issues, but a meeting with both energy providers would be held to ensure a way forward in future where they don't do this. If you're in Queensland, the assets should run, the grid should operate, he said. I'll be discussing that with the Energy Minister and talking to Ergon and Energex. In total, aircons have been automatically throttled back about 210,000 times in the Sunshine State so far in 2024 to ease pressure on the power grid, according to information obtained from the government-owned power company. And the article rightly states that you no longer have control over your own home's heating and cooling, quipping that the energy company now has the aircon remote control. The most disappointing thing about this, though, is that it was the Liberal National Party government, supposedly right-leaning, that introduced the peak smart system of smart meters. They should be standing up for the rights of individuals against big government intervention, but ended up doing precisely the opposite. The accompanying editorial piece explains the implications of these draconian measures. While many state governments and federal Labour have gone all in on renewables, in particular huge wind and solar farms, the lack of large-scale battery storage means when the sun doesn't shine and the wind doesn't blow, there is a shortfall. Just to say, battery storage is an expensive joke. It cannot possibly replace baseload generation. Earlier this month, the Courier Mail's Keep the Lights On series showed how the gas industry was ready and willing to fill that gap, at least until the reliability of renewables increased, but needed the green light to increase production and open up new sources. The coalition, of course, has bet the farm on nuclear power filling that gap, despite an ongoing debate on costs as well as concerns about the time needed to establish a nuclear industry from scratch. While many, including Federal Energy Minister Chris Bowen, are keen to poke holes in the coalition's nuclear plan, it is at least a plan. How the Labour government explains its roadmap to net zero, or doesn't, will go a long way towards deciding who wins the next federal election. Because remotely turning off the air conditioners of paying customers to keep the lights on for the rest of us seems like a stopgap solution at best and an act of desperation at worst. Yes, desperation indeed, which only makes the smug pronouncements of Chris Bowen through that cynical smirk even more galling. They have no idea what they're doing, but ridicule attempts to get Australia out of the hole Bowen and the Labour government have dug for us. There is no way that a wind and solar grid can power a modern industrialised economy like Australia's without something serious to prop it up, be that gas, coal or nuclear. Failure to do so would be an act of almost staggering incompetence and will leave families and businesses struggling. Unless they change course and accept that some form of baseload generation is retained, there's one thing that is certain: more of this kind of action will come in the future. More restrictions on your use of electricity and more control of your lives, all in the name of saving the planet. If someone suggests a smart meter, just say no. And with that, thanks for your incredible support during 2024. Have a great new year and see you in 2025.